Hi, my name is Marcy. Welcome to my channel, Amnicon Studio. If you are new here, welcome, welcome. And if you are a returning friend, welcome back. I am a crafter who lives in northern Wisconsin, and right now my focus is mostly on cross stitch, knitting, and crochet. Hopefully in the springtime, when the temperatures warm up, I will be able to start sharing more about my seed starting and gardening adventures. For all my talk about wanting to record more frequently, that did not happen this month. I'm not exactly sure what happened with January. I either heard it or I read it somewhere about resting your brain in January, and I guess my subconscious kind of took that one to heart because I have been doing a lot of resting this month. I've been doing a little bit of crafting, not as much as I thought I would, and my focus has actually been in a different direction than what I expected it to be. So I've just been kind of going with the flow and doing what I felt like, not necessarily what my grand plan said that I should be doing. It's okay. That's what I kept telling myself. It's my hobbies, it's my crafting, and if this is what I feel like doing, this is what I'm going to do. I have some show notes for all the different things that I have been working on. There's only a few things that I want to share. Otherwise, I think this would be like an hour-long video, and I don't want to do an hour-long video, my first video back after like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whenever this video gets loaded. Okay, so let me get my stuff in order and I will start sharing. First thing that I want to share is a re-FFoing of an FFO that I did in, I think, 2021, maybe. Fat Quarter Shop did a learn how to cross stitch video series, and they put out a free pattern to go with it. I don't remember exactly what it's called. I might have put this on my blog, so I might have more details on it. I don't have anything in front of me right now because I just sort of remembered it. But this is my FFO that I re-FFoed. Previously, I had it in a frame and I was never really happy with it. So I decided to give it a try with a pillow. And I think I did a nice job. I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with making the pillows. And, you know, now that I'm thinking about this, did I share this one already? Gosh, I cannot remember, but no, I think I shared something else that I turned into a pillow. Bear with me, but the original pattern, everything that's red was blue. And since I don't live in a blue house, I live in a red house, I changed it. And then I had a hard time deciding if I wanted to keep the colors in the squares. And I think I ended up doing just that, keeping the color, the green, the same. But there's where I hand sewed it closed. Here's the fabric that I chose. It's 14 count Aida, the sparkly opalescence stuff. I love that stuff. So that is my FFO that I may or may not have shared with you before because I'm having a brain cramp. First thing I want to share is cross stitch works in progress. This first piece I shared on social media a bit ago. It was Mother's Garden. I've got show notes. Mother's Garden by Blackbird Designs. Now I started this one January 1st, 2025. I probably was very dedicated for maybe a month 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and then I put it away. And I had mostly, at the time, I had mostly worked on the frame, and then I did a little element on it. I just realized I didn't grab the chart, so I can't share what the chart looks like. Maybe I'll take a picture and post it here. Well, anyways, so I picked it back up. I decided I was going to work on the border. I think I just called it frame. Gosh, I am out of practice. And the closer I got to the finishing the border, the more I had a sinking feeling that it wasn't going to line up. And I was right. Can you see that? Oh, I've got company here. Hold please. Okay, I'm back. It was just the Amazon driver, which I'm still not used to getting those out here where I live. Okay, is it proper to say that I whiffed it? I whiffed it pretty bad on here. This is my first time using, I can't remember if it's 32 count or 36 count Belfast linen. And I tried so hard on this to not miss anything, not mess up the sizes of the stitches or anything like that. I just was so careful, and I messed up so bad. So this is going to go to the frog pond, and I will restart this at some point on 14 count Ada. And I am going to, unless it ends up being a real total nightmare, I'm going to rip this all out and save this linen for something that maybe doesn't have a border, or maybe smaller pieces, because maybe this was just too big of a project for me to try on linen. I don't want to say this was my first time working on linen, but it was definitely more complicated than the one stitch at a time piece that I did last year. And that was a linen even weave. And honestly, I don't know if that's even a thing. It was Charles Craft fabric that I got from Michael's. So, whoa. So that will be going off the scroll frame and will be off the list for a while until I am ready to start it again. Yeah. The next piece that I want to share about is Portrait of a Snapping Turtle by Mud Puppy Stitchery. Let me reach down and grab it. Here is my stats. I started it January 1st. I am using the called for DMC. The fabric is 14 count toast from Ada cloth from Hobby Lobby, which is a medium brown I put. And I am model stitching this for Kenzie. And really this, after what I consider to be a catastrophic failure on that other piece, I just kind of wanted to focus on this piece. I forgot to grab a board, so I have to pardon any noises you might hear. I'm using my project bag. This is where I am so far. I have 2,250 stitches on here. I'm at about 41% complete. I have, I think, 4 color completes. I think that's what it's called. I imported this into Pattern Keeper, and that's where I'm getting my stats from. But I got all the outlines completed. All this green right here is all completed. One of the color completes, it's kind of funny. It was just the two white dots in the eyes. And then this, it's kind of like a sea green to me. That is all completed. And then I started working on the face a little bit. But that is where I am so far. And it's really fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's potato chip stitching for me, especially like working to complete the colors. I'm sure I'm gonna have the shell done before I know it. And then I'm really curious to see how this is all going to stitch up and work out. I did over here just to kind of see what the color looked like. But yeah, that is where I am so far. It is not a very big stitch. And I am hoping to have that done in another, let's see, another 2 or 3 weeks maybe, if I'm being optimistic. Because I'm not working on any of my other cross stitch projects. I might have touched my birthday Sal one from last year. I worked on that one a little bit earlier in the month, but not much with it. No real reason why, I just haven't felt like working on it. The other main thing that I've been working on has been crochet, and 2 projects specifically. The first one I want to share about is my Battenberg blanket that I'm doing as a crochet along with my friend Leann, who also has a channel on here called Leann Stitches. If I remember right, she started it up talking about it, and I said that I had been thinking about starting one of those Battenberg blankets too, but using all of my stash yarn in worsted weight, because I have a lot of worsted weight acrylic yarn. And we have no idea how long this is gonna take. I think my last video, I said she was probably gonna be done with it before me. Well, she's using, I think, sock weight yarn doubled up, and I can't remember how many squares she has done already, like 2, 3, but she's doing them in bigger size than I am. I think she's got 6.5, 7-inch squares that she's making, where I decided that I wanted to make them small and cute. And since I'm going to be working on this project for who knows how long, I wanted to make sure that I am getting what I want. And so far I've worked with 3 colors. This is the first one. It's, variegated purple. I had a skein and half of this that I'm working on, and I'm getting so many squares out of this. And then there's green. Not as many squares out of that. I'm still working on this pink mauve. I'll have to put a picture of how many squares I have, because I counted this past weekend and I have over 40 squares. I've been working on them most mornings. I do 3 a day when I do them. I have done so much crocheting this month that I need to give my crocheting hand a break, because my wrist is kind of wore out and tired. But yeah, if you could see it right now, it's like I'm trying to pull up the squares and they're just falling all over the place. So that is my first crochet blanket, and every so often I stop and I weave in the ends, so I'm not completely overwhelmed with them at the end. I did the math. I sort of did math, and I told Leann that I think I need to do 625 squares minimum. And she said, wow, that's a lot. And I think she said she has to do 300 and some, and in my brain, the math kind of correlates because her squares are roughly twice the size mine are. I mean, I've got small hands too, but yeah, they're like 3.5. So I've been having a lot of fun making those while I watch TV and YouTube. So I said, I don't know what I'm gonna do with storage when the time comes, because it's gonna be a lot of squares and they're starting to not fit in this bag that I made years ago. It's one of my favorite project bags and I hardly ever use it. I'm holding off until I've got a better selection of the colored squares, and then I'll start making the white squares and start putting everything together, because I guess there's a method of crocheting them together as you go along, but I didn't want a huge concentration of those purple squares at the beginning and then it gradually turning to something else. I want it nicely homogenized, if that's a good way to put it. And then the other blanket that I'm working on is another crochet along with Cat from Stitching with the Griffin. This I've got a project for it. This is what I've got, and I'm not sure how to call it. At the Maeve Granny Square. It is a square done by Deborah Field over at Madam Stitch. This square was one of the squares for the Granny Square crochet along that I did last year with Cat, and the one with the 12 different squares that I was just kind of over with by the end of it. But then when I put everything together, I fell in love with that blanket. I'm using stash acrylics, so it's going to be a variety of colors. I guess we're going to do 20 squares. My plan is to use either white or gray yarn to go around every granny square and then seam them all together. I'm pushing for 1 square a week, which I've already lost that one, and I'll share why. The directions on this one, I'm just grateful that there's a video that went with it, because then I ended up rewriting the instructions so they make sense to me. There are 2 specialty granny square stitches on them. And here is the first one that I completed. Very nice, very nice. I'm very happy with it. They're the 2 specialty stitches. Let's see, it's, you know, granny squares all around, and then this, what do you call it? You put a stitch in the 3rd loop in the back. I'm probably not explaining that correctly, but it makes sense in my brain. And then there's this crossed granny stitch. And then up here is a spiked granny stitch. And honestly, I don't know if I'm doing that one correctly, but I figure as long as I'm consistent with it on all the squares, it'll look just fine. So that was my first one, and I was so happy to have it done. And then my second square. And then I started working on the 3rd square. I apologize if I keep leaning forward. I don't have a table in front of me. The 3rd square, I realized that I didn't have enough yarn. So that's where that one is, and this is how much yarn I had left when I realized I was not going to win the yarn chicken. And let me show you the difference in size. It's pretty heartbreaking because these are not quick squares for me. So I basically wasted a day's worth of crafting time for this one. So that was a real bummer. I guess I will take this yarn, rip it out, and then make maybe 3 Battenberg squares out of it. So there'll be some really nice pops of color in that blanket. So I have to go out and choose a 3rd yarn yet again and hope that it is enough for that. Which kind of stinks. I was really hoping to have 4 squares done by the end of January, and that might not be the case. Most of my focus this month has been on sewing, which is kind of, I want to say out of character for me, but maybe not because it's the dark months and I don't know. But I have done quite a bit of sewing this month, and sewing stuff that I didn't think I would ever sew. A while back, and I'm not even sure what prompted it, but it might have been with my Advent piece that I was working on. I realized how useful thread beds would be. And it's something that in the past I've seen and I thought, oh, those are nice. Those, I can see where those would be really handy, but that's not for me. Something changed and I decided that I needed to make myself some thread beds. So I made several actually. And you can see that this one is in progress because I'm using it with my snapping turtle. You may recognize that fabric because that is the fabric on the back of here. And I felt such success with this one that I decided I needed to make more. So I made one to go with my February stitch along that I'm doing with Patty Penn for her birthday. I even bought one of those kits for the plastic snap things. I'm not sure if I mentioned that before, but yeah, I ordered that off of Amazon and started making these. Those two were so successful that I went and dug out fabric out of my stash that I knew I had left over from making previous project bags. So these match project bags that I have made, and I'm kind of excited about that. It's funny, what makes you happy, and that makes me happy. So then I did all those, and I thought I can only do so many of those thread beds unless I wanted to start selling them or something, which that is not a thing for me. That's not a goal, I guess I need to say. I found some fabric that I purchased last year and tucked away for a different style of project bag that I wanted to try. And I followed a tutorial. It was Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch. And I made myself patriotic project bag. And I gotta say, this style pulled together so much faster than the style that I was making before off the Fat Quarter Shop. I know a part of it was because I was doing the quilting on them. This, I suppose I could do quilting on it if I wanted to, but the cutting, I mean, it's so simple and to the point. There's not a lot of pieces. I'd always wondered how people do I'm not sure what's called, but where you can do the binding with the backing fabric rather than it being a bias tape, if I'm using words right. But that just, oh my gosh, it pulled together so fast. And I thought, I want to make all the project bags now. So I didn't stop there because I had leftover fabric. I had a yard of fabric. So I made another thread bed to go with it. But not just that. I tried my hand at making one of these little Ort things. And I followed the Primrose cottage tutorial on that one. And ended up having to make a little jig because I messed up on my first set of the snaps. And I gotta tell you, that's a real treat trying to remove one of those without completely ripping the fabric. But yeah, you can see the little hole where I originally put it. I put the snaps in too low, so the little container bit was not very big. So I did not stop there. Oh, no, 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 no. I also took the fabric and made a needle minder. I Mod Podged it, and boy, did that turn out good. Like I mean, there's a texture there, but it's not the texture you'd think it would be. And I made that after I made the, and I cannot for the life of me think of what this is called. Ring bling? I made that too out of fabric. And so now I have this really cute matchy-matchy set. There we go. I'll probably take a picture and post it too. But yeah, I was so tickled pink with myself for making all that, and I kind of feel like I need to make a second one because I've got 2 patriotic pieces that I want to start this year. The one being for the 250th sesquicentennial for this year, celebrating 250 years of the USA, the birth of our nation. And then the bunny one that I got from Primitive Hair, what did I call it? Independent bunnies? Independent buns? Yeah. So the problem is, of course, the fabric is not out in the big box stores, so I'm not sure when I'll be able to do that. I was looking for Valentine's fabric to make a Valentine's project bag like in this style too, and there's nothing out in the big box stores that I've been out to. And like, I'm already seeing Valentine's stuff on social media and the commercials for Wuthering Heights, which I went on a tangent about to my husband when we saw a commercial for that together. If you're wondering why I'm like that, I think it's the last video that I went off on a tear about, that I'm still struggling to read through Wuthering Heights. Yeah. On notes, that is all the projects that I've been working on. Life, not a lot of exciting things going on. This is basically it. I've done a little bit of knitting. I don't want to share that one right now, just because we've got a lot of snow events, I guess you would call them. So we have been clearing and pushing snow, which it tires me out, but it doesn't. But I have to rest after I do any kind of labor with shoveling. It's just pressure on certain parts of my body, and my body's not ready for it, I guess. Without getting into too much details. Chickens, they finally started laying. Finally. So now we're getting 2 to 3 eggs a day, which I am thrilled about. And of course, I've got to go out and check several times a day so they don't freeze. This morning, I went out and refilled their feed bucket. I moved the feed bag that is out there, and those little brats have been laying eggs behind the feed bag, which I didn't even think was possible. I thought I had it all close enough to the wall that they wouldn't be able to sneak behind anything and lay eggs. Nope. So I had to toss 2 eggs because they were frozen and exploded. They have been, well, we had a warm spell. So they got comfortable with the idea of going outside and then started demanding it, and then the temperatures dropped again. The best, if you're a gardener, I am in zone 3B, currently 4A. If you're a gardener, that means something. It just means it gets cold. It gets cold up here. But we had a quick spell where it was unseasonably warm, and that was temperatures in the upper 40s. And then the chickens decided, hey, we don't mind being outside. For anybody who's wondering, like, isn't it too cold for their feet out there? There's not a lot going on with their feet, which sounds funny, but there's not like a lot of blood circulation and muscles and stuff that would get cold and freeze up in their feet. So their feet don't feel the cold like we feel the cold. And then they've got all their feathers, and their body temperature runs warmer than us. You know, we're at like 98 point whatever, and they're, I want to say 104. So it'd have to be pretty cold and really damp before they start having issues with the cold. And I cleaned out their coop so there's no excess moisture in there, and I try to have it decently where the air is not stagnant, so it's not like dripping moisture in there or anything. It's pretty dry in there right now. So yeah, they started laying. They got used to going outside, and now it's cold, and now they don't want to go outside again. Although when they do hear me outside, they can go out into their run, and they usually make noises at me. I have done very little in the way of reading. I'm sure you notice I have not touched my Porky cross stitch. No real reason, just I haven't felt it. The vibe isn't there, whatever you want to call it. And partially because it's like a whole other thing. If I want to work on that one, I've got a different setup for it, which sounds really like a lame excuse, but it's the truth. I have been all about easy right now and not having to think too hard. And I'm hoping that will change, because next month, definitely for sure, I need to start thinking about some things like seed starting. I got to start getting that stuff prepared. Not necessarily doing the seed starting, although I did start up my seed station, and I've got my Christmas cactus in there right now. I'm looking at it right there. I'll take a picture and insert it. But yeah, I've got some things going on right there. Otherwise, I think that really is it for this one. Still no fancy outro, so, but I guess I just want to say stay safe, stay warm if you are in the colder climates, and if you are in the warmer climates, I hope your ambient temperature is acceptable. So until next time, bye.